that they're nice guys and they're just here for us. Did you know that it was either Microsoft, I believe? Yeah, it is Microsoft. I looked into this very carefully. Has an entire partnership with immigration attorneys, almost all of whom are of Indian descent. Look into it carefully. I support Indian people. I have from the beginning. But I don't support any race, any religion that hates America and undermines us. It's that simple. So there's a lot more to the trade bill and immigration than meets the eye. There are 4 other things I have to tell you about. And you have to remember this. The TSA has been written in secret by and for major corporations that would benefit them only if it became law. It was written for Microsoft. It was written for Facebook. It was written for Google. It was written for the tech companies who lobbied around the clock with the bully in chief. They want more profit, that's all. And they got shafted today because of a progressive conservative coalition. Incidentally, where does Ms. Clinton stand on this? Nowhere, as usual. A liar and a hider. It was her husband, after all, who gave us NAFTA. Do you remember NAFTA? And raise your hands if you remember what Bill Clinton did to America. That greedy Aztec. Stealing hundreds of millions of dollars under the guise of speaker fees and this and contributions. And where is she on this? Nowhere to be found. So let's go back to free trade. Many of you are confused. You don't know what free trade is. I'll take some calls. 855-407-282. Stephen, WABC, we have a minute. Make your point. Go ahead, please.
Hi. Yes, I think it was a stroke of brilliance on Obama's part because he knew that the Democrats would be against the bill because it was anti-union, and anything that he puts his name on, the Republicans would reflexively oppose. He called Obama trade. They would absolutely vote against it, so he got his way. The bill was killed. It's my opinion.
Sir, what are you talking about? The Republicans voted for it. You got that backwards.
But he got enough Republicans to vote against it so that the bill does.
Sir, it was the Democrats who in a majority voted against your bully boss. No, Obama went to Congress this morning to lobby for it. You're just trying to spin this to make your progressive friends think you're smart, that you got on the Michael Savage show and got the best of him. My friend, you just went away with egg on your face. I'm not even giving you a free copy of Countdown to Mecca. You're not worthy of it. I'll be back. This is Michael Savage. Be here or be nowhere.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
We are out seeing the real world. We don't live in a cloister where the only people who can get in are the captains of industry and the titans of Wall Street. We're the ones touring factories and places of business every day. And so the president should trust us, his 200 most fervent supporters who, unlike him, have a chance to get out and see the real world.
That's Representative Brad Sherman, a progressive stooge who did not vote for this. The progressive stooge, Brad Sherman, Democrat, California, opposed the president on this. Most Democrats opposed the president on this, including some of the top dogs out there. Nancy Pelosi, as you know, Jim McGovern, a lunatic left-winger, said, I think that it's an unfair bill. He told the Huffington Post of Obama's comments when he was fighting them. And he said, I think that rather than the president engaging in this war of words, he ought to take the concerns that have been expressed by a lot of Democrats seriously and try to address them. That's a super progressive. Brad Sherman, we just played, saying he's out of touch with reality. And you take one of the other leftists, Marcy Kaptur of the Ohio, and she said that the Democrats should save President Obama from his advisors on this trade madness. How about trade's biggest opponent in the House, Connecticut's Rosa DeLauro, an otherwise flaming pinko? Rosa DeLauro accused her good friend, House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi, of not understanding her own party. That's before Pelosi finally went along with her on this. So don't tell me it was the Republicans who undermined Obama. It was his own Democrat Party that he couldn't get to go along with Microsoft, Google, you name the company that was lobbying for this. And they were lobbying heavily for it. What they wanted from this was cheaper labor. And I told you in what form. Not only B-1B business visitor visas, but L-1 intra-company transferees. So what does that mean? What would they have done? What would they have done if they got this? The competitive advantage that foreign companies would have gotten from TSA or TISA would be the ability to provide cheaper services by importing much cheaper labor to supplant American workers and paying their workers the much lower salaries they would earn in their home countries, as they already do in the L1 and B1 visa programs. So it's all about a bottom line, a bigger bottom line for Larry Ellison, a bigger bottom line for all of the other global titans who have no loyalty to the United States of America, the country that gave them their start. This is how they reward us, trying to stick a knife in our back. There were no other words for this. I speak clear English, I speak clearly, and I speak bluntly. I don't make up words to go with words. Sometimes fewer words are more important than bigger words. They are greedy. They make Aztecs look like benevolent tourists in terms of what they're doing to this country. 855-407-282. I'm not finished yet. I'm going to read you more of the trade bill immigration provisions because, as I said to you earlier, once a scholar, always a scholar, and rather than just reading the headlines, as most talk shows only have the time to do, I dug into the bill. I read the trade bill immigration provisions. These are only a few of what these greedy Aztecs wanted to do to this country. Let's take a caller or two to break up the flow of my voice here. Let's go to WMAL in Washington, D.C. Tom, go ahead. What's on your mind?
Hello. I'd like to say that you're unique amongst conservative talk show hosts in your stance on free trade, because all of them always support free trade. It's almost like a religion, and what you say about dumping...
Well, wait, which conservative talk show hosts support free trade? Which one of them have come out in favor of it? I don't listen to them, so I don't know who it would be.
It's typical that it is supported... free trade is...
Okay, I know who supports it. Wall Street Journal supports free trade. That's Murdoch. They never met anything but free trade. They love free trade. Doctrinaire Republicans love free trade because they work for the big companies, right? But I'm in favor of real free trade, and that would incorporate tariffs against companies like nations like China. We must impose tariffs on China in order to loosen their stranglehold on our economy. And I have said back in my last 2 books ago, which was Trickle Up Poverty, a huge bestseller, that we should impose a 20% tariff on all goods produced in China, and that we should raise the tariff by 5% every year that China refuses to revalue its currency. One of the methods they have used to keep their cheap goods flooding America is by not revaluing their currency. You know that, don't you?
Yes.
Okay. And you also know that this bill that Obama tried so hard to get passed today also permitted these countries to manipulate their currencies in order to continue dumping not only cheap labor, but cheap goods on these shores until the whole country was gutted from a manufacturing point of view, and all was left was a bunch of consumers. All right, well, thanks for the call. I appreciate that. 855-407-282. 855-407-282. Now, the biggest loser in this is the weasel, Ted Cruz. I've told you for over 6 weeks now I thought Ted Cruz was a weasel. You said, well, why did you say that? I'm a quick judge of politicians. There's certain things that add up in my mind very quickly. First of all, I saw which talk show host supported him. I knew he was a weasel. You know, birds of a feather flock together. So immediately by the support of those who supported him, I knew he was a weasel like they are. I won't mention their names. The ones who pretend that they're big rock-ribbed Republican, the conservatives, they're weasels. They supported the Republican Party, and they still do. But let's put them aside. Ted Cruz is a weasel. He supported this. So you know the big loser here are the Tea Party groups who supported Ted Cruz. They must be heartbroken because they didn't listen to Michael Savage when I told you, watch out. When I told you, warning. When I told you that he is no different than Paul Ryan. I warned you about Ted Cruz. Nevertheless, he's finished. He's toast. He's gone. He has immolated himself on the stake of this bill because he came out in favor of it. And that should tell you everything you need to know about the weasel, Ted Cruz. He's the biggest loser. So put an X through his candidacy. It's over. WBAP in Dallas. Jim, welcome to the Savage Nation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Savage. And I just want to thank you. I'm a Republican, but I'm also a domestic manufacturer. And what your comments on the theory of free trade versus reality is very refreshing because I'll tell you, the Congress, Republicans in Washington, D.C., I mean, that is their mantra, is free trade, but they don't understand free trade.
They don't understand it. They're not businessmen. They're just lobbyists for companies that pay them off.
Go sell my product to China, yet I fight China every day because they're dumping policy, because we allow them to dump their product into our country, and it's just...
That's right. You see, people don't understand this. I myself am not in business, but my family is in business, and they have business all over the world in many, many countries. So I listen in and I learn. And I learned that if we export, we have to pay tariffs to most of these countries, while those countries can dump their goods on our shores with no tariffs. Is that free trade? Of course it isn't.
They don't have EPA. They don't have OSHA. They don't care about their employees. We do, and it's never a balanced playing field. But going up to D.C. to try to convince some, now not all, but some, is just talking to this wall over here. But it's thank you for your comments, because I hope that some light bulbs will go off, because it needs to. People need to see that there is no such thing as
free trade. And do you agree with me that tariffs on certain foreign countries and certain foreign goods might be in order?
Of course I do. Of course I do.
And you know, if you've studied the history of America, that in the early days of our colonies, did you know that we had to put the early guys had to put tariffs on foreign goods? Because they too were trying to undermine the domestic industrial base that was growing here, and they were dumping their goods. It was mainly England was dumping their goods on our shores at below cost of manufacturing to prevent their own manufacturing base from being built up. So the founding fathers put tariffs on their goods. People don't know that.
You know, it's the security of our nation. You know, and you know this, I know, but I don't know what the percentage is today. But several years ago, the Department of Defense, 85% of their purchases was from out of the country. I mean,
it's awful. That's right. How many critical electronic components of our fighter jets and bombers are made by our enemies in China? How many chips have they put into our aircraft which they can monitor? Maybe they can control our fighter planes in midair. How do we know what they've done to our ships and planes with the Quislings running this country? Both sides of the aisle, by the way. Listen, it's worse than we think, but I don't want to panic the people. Today is a watershed day because Nancy Pelosi, for her own greedy interests, shafted her boss, Obama. That really is good news, don't you think?
Oh, yes. And, you know, I just don't think our tax dollars should be to support China.
Nobody does. Nobody does. China is on a war footing, the same way Japan was on a war footing in the 1930s. You ask any military analyst, China is building up their military as quickly as they can, and there's only one reason for it. And it's not to send tofu abroad. I'm sending you a copy of Countdown to Mecca because it's the most important novel of the year 2015, written by yours truly, Michael Savage. It's a quick read, and it is an important read, and it is a great, great Father's Day gift. It's in every bookstore or on Amazon. Countdown to Mecca. Let's go to the callers, 855-400-7282. This is an amazing day, by the way. If you don't know what it's all about, the biggest bully in the world, Barack Obama, was today given a resounding defeat by a coalition of progressives and conservatives who said niet, no. Now, it's not over yet. Remember, it's not over yet. They're going to vote again on Tuesday, which means that he's going to sweeten the deal by buying off some of the Democrats, no doubt, on this. So anything could happen on Tuesday. Just as they bought people off for Obamacare to give us socialized medicine, you won't know what's in it until we pass it. Same thing here. They didn't want you to know what's in the bill. I found out what's in the bill. I did my homework. And I focused for you today only on the immigration provisions. They are far more dangerous than you have been told. It is not rumored, Mr. Ryan. No, Mr. Ryan, they're not rumors. They're far worse than anybody could imagine. And Paul Ryan, you should get the Benedict Arnold combined award with the Mr. Quisling Award. We'll give you the Benedict Arnold and the Quisling Award all in one, Ryan. You get both. You get a duet out of it. WDRC, Pauline, welcome to the Savage Nation program. What's on your mind?
Hi, I watched the vote today on the trade bill that went down handily, I might add, and you're absolutely right. Without the Democrats, it wouldn't have went down. Only the good conservative Republicans voted against it. But after the vote, you had to see Majority Whip McCarthy and Speaker O'Boehner. They were so livid. In fact, Boehner said, remember that the American people are watching this, as if it was a wonderful thing to vote for this. What are we going to do? I'm beside myself.
I don't know. Boehner is a Benedict Arnold. He's a total traitor. There's no question about it. He's a bought and sold